In this video we're going to be looking at how good Rabiot and Arnautovic actually are, what we can infer from their FB ref reports, why Adrien Rabiot's mother could be a major issue, and what do I actually think of these two as potential signings for Manchester United. But before I go any further, if you need a place where you can keep up to date with the latest transfer news, find all the match stats you need from games across the globe, and watch highlights and stream live football matches, then you need to download the OneFootball app. I use the OneFootball app because it's completely free, and not only do they have stats and transfer news, but they also have videos to watch and articles to read, which is where I get a lot of my ideas for new videos. And as I said before, you can stream live football matches and watch highlights all on the app. Downloading the OneFootball app will help support the channel as well, so I'll leave it linked in the description below. So at the start of the summer, I could have listed 20 players for United to sign in the central midfield and centre forward positions, and the two players that Manchester United look closest to signing currently would be nowhere near that list. Marko Arnautovic is the first player United have been heavily linked with in the last few days, and to be honest, despite United's interest, I am sceptical of this deal happening for a few reasons. Firstly, United have already had a £7.6 million bid for the 33-year-old Austrian rejected by Bologna, which tells me that they are probably going to try to hike up the price as much as possible, which may turn United away sooner rather than later, as I think they perhaps see Arnautovic as a cut price short-term option. However, that may not turn out to be the case. The second reason is the bad press that's going to come with this signing, which I will come on to a bit later, but let's first analyse Arnautovic the player to get a fair assessment. So Arnautovic is what I would call a classic deep line forward, a player who retains a fairly high position in the attack, but will drop off slightly to link the play with his back to goal, using his short sharp passes and quick turns to work the ball around defenders. He certainly has the upper body strength, agility and ball control to play this well, as well as being very astute at using quick passes to find teammates around the box. He then from here is very much going to be looking to get into the box to get into goal scoring positions. So he is very much a goal scorer first and foremost, and he is quite prolific, as seen as despite Bologna finishing 13th in Serie A last season, Arnautovic still managed 14 goals in 33 appearances. He's very much a penalty box finisher in the sense that most of his goals come from when the opposition side are already camped inside their box, rather than from a quick attack where he could be running in behind into space. And he does excel in this phase of play because he has got pretty good movement to create space for himself, and he has very good reactions which enable him to react quickly when the ball falls, and he's a good striker of the ball as well. He also has the offensive aerial ability to make him an attacking weapon from crosses, and I think this is why Ten Hag wants him, as apart from Cristiano Ronaldo, United lack an attacker who excels in the box. Both Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford are better on the counter when running into the box, but Arnautovic is much more of a traditional striker like an Alan Shearer or Didier Drogba, who creates chances for himself when in a congested penalty area. When we look at his FB ref report, we can see that he actually looks pretty impressive, close to being on par with his non-penalty XG, which sits in the 77th percentile, with his non-penalty goals in the 68th. His expected assist rate is also in the 70th percentile, and his progressive metrics are all in and around the 55th to 60th percentile range, and the fact that he ranks in the 87th percentile for progressive passes received shows that he is capable of being the focal point of the attack, and being that player who can drop off, receive progressive passes from the midfield into his feet, which can allow United to link the attack between the middle and final thirds. However, what I would say is that these numbers are good but not great, and certainly not the level United need as their starting striker, so it does seem very much like Arnautovic is coming in to be United's second or third choice striker after Ronaldo and Martial, and will very much be the player brought off the bench when United need a goal. Under usual circumstances, I quite like this move. It would be a short-term contract for a veteran player who without doubt still has the quality, and most importantly brings the goal-scoring ability into a squad that desperately lacks it. He would suit the role that he would be required to play, not just being a penalty box merchant either, actually being very good at linking the play outside of the box too. However, Arnautovic, like Rabiot, would bring a fiery personality and toxicity to a dressing room that is already brimming with it. To me, Arnautovic would be a fantastic signing for a mid-table bottom half Premier League side, where he can be the main man, a big fish in a small pond, as I just don't think his ego and personality is going to be well suited to playing a more reserved role where he has limited playing time. He had issues at Inter Milan with his attitude towards the back end of his time at Stoke as well, and the controversy around his alleged racial slurs in the Euro 2020 match against North Macedonia. He also went to China in 2019, leaving West Ham, which is always a concerning move to me, as I think it shows a player prioritises financial gain over his long-term footballing career, which is definitely a player trait that United don't need in the dressing room at the minute. Now we move on to Rabiot, who at his best isn't a bad player. and quite a decent central midfielder in a possession-based side. He, like Frankie de Jong, has the press resistance and ball carrying ability to act as a deep connector in the deepest midfield role, dropping to collect the ball off the back line and looking to play quick passes around the corner or swivel out of pressure and drive the ball forward. He isn't at Frankie de Jong's level, but he's certainly going to be an improvement on Fred and McTominay. But to be honest, relatively any half-competent central midfielder is going to be a better option than Fred and McTominay at the moment, and apart from his ball carrying, I really don't see Rabiot being an attractive option. He does most things to a decent level, but I wouldn't say he excels in any one area, and when we look at his FB Ref report from the last 365 days, we can see this. For ball progression, Rabiot ranks fairly averagely, sitting in the 14th percentile for progressive passes, the 74th for progressive carries, and the 62nd for dribbles, which shows that when it comes to finding low incisive passes into players between the lines or switching the play with long passes to move the ball forward, Rabiot does struggle with this, and the majority of his ball progression comes when he's driving into space with the ball at his feet. And to be honest, there isn't even much improvement on McTominay and Fred apart from maybe Rabiot's ability to swivel out of pressure with his back to goal. You can see from McTominay's FB Ref report that he actually ranks a lot higher for progressive passes than Rabiot, and also sits higher for both progressive carries and dribbles. Fred ranks a lot higher for his progressive passes, but not as high for his carries or dribbles. So what this tells us is that whilst Rabiot's ability to move the ball forward with it at his feet is pretty decent, statistically at least it's not better than McTominay's, and both Fred and McTominay are much better progressive passers. Whilst Rabiot certainly isn't a defensive liability, he, like Fred and McTominay, is much more of a pressing central midfielder who does his best defensive work when pushing high up the pitch and looking to win the ball back with assertive standing tackles, rather than being an industrious ball winner who uses his athleticism to race across the pitch and put in tackles to break up opposition attacks. The majority of his defensive actions do come from his pressing and his tackling, as seen as he does rank in the 83rd and 85th percentile respectively for those metrics, but his interceptions are way down in the 29th percentile, which tells me that, like Fred and McTominay, Rabiot is a reactive central midfielder who is assertive when moving out to make a tackle, but his reading of the game is nowhere near the level needed, and so I would consider him much more of a ball progressor rather than a ball winner. But even still, when it comes to ball progression, he may be slightly better than Fred and McTominay, but certainly isn't well above their level. And so knowing this, I really just don't see the point in bringing Rabiot in apart from having an extra body there for squad depth. But I'm not even sure that he would be a consistent starter ahead of Fred and McTominay, and I would much prefer to see James Garner starting in the double pivot ahead of Rabiot. Now I do think that overall Rabiot would be an improvement on McTominay, however the reason I don't see him being a consistent starter ahead of him is his inconsistency and disciplinary issues. Rabiot is a player that can often flatter to deceive, drifting through games without having a major impact, and that's definitely something that United don't need right now in the centre of midfield. Even when we delve deeper into Rabiot's complete FB Ref report to look into more detailed statistics like passes into the final third and into the penalty area, as well as key passes and expected assists, we can see that Rabiot ranks incredibly low for these, not even in the top 50%. But arguably the biggest issue with this transfer is, like Arnautovic, Rabiot comes with a whole lot of baggage. His mother is his agent, and let's just say she isn't as easygoing as most mothers. In fact, she came out and publicly criticised PSG, calling Rabiot a prisoner of Paris after Rabiot refused to sign a contract extension, and after multiple disciplinary issues that season, including turning up late to meetings and going AWOL from training, he was sent to train with the reserves. And these issues with his mother and PSG went back even further to when he was 15 and he was invited on PSG's trip to Qatar in 2012, but he withdrew from the squad after the club refused to allow his mother to accompany him on a tour. During a loan spell at Toulouse, head coach Alain Casanova admitted that he did reject Rabiot's mother's request to be allowed to attend every first team training session. A few years later, when Rabiot was beginning to burst into the first team setup at PSG in 2014, head coach Laurent Blanc was confronted by Rabiot's mother, who was angry that her son had been demoted to what she deemed the reserve side, and security had to be called after Veronica Rabiot waited in the parking lot for Blanc in order to express her dissatisfaction. She also snuck into a training camp in Doha during Rabiot's time at PSG, despite family members being banned from the trip. And these issues aren't solely limited to PSG, as Rabiot was put on the standby list after failing to make it into the main French squad for the 2018 World Cup. He wrote to the Football Federation of France and Deschamps asking to be removed from the list, and Deschamps was reportedly shocked by Rabiot's decision, but he was eventually recalled for the Euros in 2021. After France's 3-3 draw then at Euro 2020 in 2021 against Switzerland, Kylian Mbappe missed the decisive penalty to ensure that Switzerland progressed, and France were knocked out. Rabiot's mother would then be caught on camera talking to Mbappe's father, and she's believed to have said that it was embarrassing how Mbappe had struck the penalty for a player of his level. The Athletic then reported that witnesses also said that Rabiot's mother clashed with members of Paul Pogba's family during the game, with the then Manchester United midfielder being accused of being at fault for Switzerland's third goal by Rabiot's mother as well. And another of the Athletic sources with inside knowledge of the France squad reported that Rabiot's mother is known to be very sensitive and very protective of her son, and she didn't appreciate what Pogba's friends were saying about one of Rabiot's touches. And so we can see that Rabiot brings a fiery personality that doesn't seem to be well suited to a disciplinarian like Ten Hag, and the fact that his mother is his agent and so volatile that she has caused major issues at previous clubs and with the national team over petty issues makes me think that this could be one of the worst things for the Manchester United dressing room, regardless of Rabiot's ability. But combine this with the fact that Rabiot just isn't a top level talent and doesn't substantially improve Manchester United's central midfield, and it just seems like a transfer that is a recipe for disaster. The reported fee is around £15 million, which sounds very cheap, until you realise that Rabiot's Juventus contract expires next summer when he will be 28 years old, and he's already on a relatively high wage. At Juventus he currently earns £175,000 per week, which is around £9 million per year, so I imagine he's going to be on a similar wage if not higher, and that does concern me. There's no way a player of Rabiot's quality is an £8 million plus salary player. United should be max paying him £5 to £6 million, but obviously this is Manchester United in 2022, so any player joining the club with any sort of prior reputation seems to be able to command an extortionate salary. So in short, I think from a footballing perspective, Arnautovic would be a better signing than Rabiot, who I just don't think offers what United really need in central midfield, but I do see both deals being very problematic, and I would just see them as pouring gasoline on a re-emerging fire at Old Trafford. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that video, remember to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and check out some of my other videos which will be linked in the description below, and put your thoughts in the comment section as well.